Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Death by Disney podcast. I'm your host, Adam. Today, I watched the 1957 Disney documentary, sort of, called Perri, Perri, about a squirrel. It's not just about a squirrel, it's more about um, the cycle of nature in the Pacific, probably Northwest, I would say, because, and maybe more towards the interior of the country rather than the coast, because they have four seasons and there's snow, and it's pretty dramatic. So maybe in the mountains or someplace like that. Yeah, I would give it 5 out of 10, and I'll explain my reasons a bit later. But it was directed by Paul Kenworth and Ralph Wright. It was written by Ralph Wright, Winston Hibble, and Felix Salton. And Winston Hibbler is the narrator of this, and he narrated a lot of those true life adventure Disney documentaries. I have to say, even though I gave this 5 out of 10, I actually enjoyed it much more than some of the other true life adventures, at least the ones that I've seen entirely. I only saw maybe 10 minutes of Secret of Life, but of the ones that I've seen, like the African Lion, and I think there was another one. Actually, I think there's been 5 or 6 so far, but I don't remember them. But this is the best, and why is it the best? Because it has a bunch of cute animals. There's cute skunks, cute raccoons, and the babies, right? Baby foxes, baby squirrels. Like, it's pretty much one of the most interesting films in that regard from Disney because there's lots of cute little babies. Um, but I didn't tell you the tagline about the movie. So, true life nature photography is used to tell the tale of a female tree squirrel named Perri who encounters many different forest creatures, both friendly and dangerous, as she grows up through forest season and finds a mate named Poro. And there are some scenes where um, there is a lot of violence or implied violence. There's hunting. Um, Perry is being pursued by a marten, which is a tiny weasel-like creature, and also later a weasel, which have these long bodies and they can hunt. And it was pretty interesting to see that because I've never actually seen animals like that in real life. I know that they exist, but I've never seen, for example, a marten in the wild a or a weasel for that matter. I've seen squirrels, of course. I've seen mice, a couple of foxes, um, raccoons, of course, hedgehogs, but I don't think hedgehogs are in North America. Porcupines, I've seen one porcupine, and they had a skunk, but I'm not sure that the skunks were actually the same species because I think that they had an African skunk in there. I don't know enough about it, but it seems like there may have been an African skunk because the coloration was like completely different, or maybe there's more than one species of skunk, which is also quite quite possible. I don't know. So the thing that I didn't like about it is and probably this is an issue with a lot of nature documentaries even today, is that a lot of this is not natural, right? And I'm sure some animals were harmed in the filming of this because I think that they wanted owls to hunt, right? So instead of just like waiting until an owl naturally hunted something, they would, you know, make a rabbit run and then the owl would hunt the rabbit, or the mouse or whatever it was. Yeah, there's a scene where some fox babies are hunting a mouse. And on the one hand, it could have been natural, but on the other hand, probably it wasn't. And they're like playing with the mouse, and the mouse could have been killed. But fox kill mice. That's not a problem for me. But the problem is that Disney, the company, was putting these animals kind of through the torture to. And torture might seem like an extreme word, but I think it is torture when you're trying to replicate these natural natural behaviors, and you're kind of interfering in what they would naturally do. And there's this one scene where there's this forest fire, and the squirrel character kind of escapes on the back of a bobcat, which I think that they did completely for the movie. And who's to say if they actually didn't cause the forest fire themselves because they wanted this dramatic thing in their movie? So I don't know. On the one hand, it has like a bunch of cute babies, so animal babies, so I give it five. But I think that there is a high chance of animal abuse, which is why I gave it five. If it was guaranteed that no animals were willingly harmed or intentionally harmed during this movie, I would give it a higher mark. So that's what I thought. And in this podcast, I also give you some trivia. So it's trivia time. The only interesting thing I found about this movie, I was expecting a lot of information. Oh, one thing is that the narrator rhymes all the time. Like, ugh, it's so horrible. I don't know why he can't just speak normally. I don't. I don't think that he was rhyming in the other films from this series. And as I said, there's 6 or 7 of them. So the trivia: Perry Gilpin was named after this film, and Perry Gilpin is the actress who played Roz in Frasier. And I remember her, but probably maybe you don't. So go back and watch that, or watch it for the first time if you haven't ever. So now here is some reviews which I call Voice of the People, and I got them from IMBD. And honestly, if I had written out my review, it would have been the worst. So there are not a lot of reviews, but they're all pretty positive for this film, which says a lot about it. That it's quite entertaining, except for the last part. Well, not the last part. There's like this weird dream sequence in it where these creatures like are hunting or being hunted, and then they turn into snowflakes. So I was having a good time until that time, in that moment, and I was like, what? And also, there are weird random song. They're not random, but I can't imagine a serious nature documentary being released now with a moving song in the beginning and the end. Doesn't make any sense. But anyway, I promised reviews. So this is the first one, 8 out of 10. Perri and Poro Forever. This was gripping. Always wanted to watch a film about a squirrel. All right, can finally tick that one off. Disney's true life fantasy was quite effective in its portrayal of the life of Perri and her lover Poro. After all, who doesn't create their own stories and narratives when watching wildlife documentaries? That's true. It has a bit of everything: squirrel romance and dodgy home renos. True. Beaver chewing down a tree with a squirrel in it. I think that's another animal endangerment thing there. Raccoons and skunks brawling. Not more animal endangerment. A skunk joining a raccoon family by mistake. That was also kind of funny. The coziest squirrel den ever. A psychedelic dream sequence, which I mentioned. A magpie poking a squirrel on the ass. Raccoons fishing. The face of death. I'm not sure what they meant by that, but yeah, there are a lot of animals that die. It definitely showcases the cycle of life and was a bit sad in parts. There's certainly a lot of bad things out to get you in life, and Perri doesn't shy away from it. It also features a wildfire sequence sure to trigger fellow Australians after we lost 1 billion animals to our bushfire crisis earlier in 2020. Ultimately, I really liked this and found myself smiling and laughing throughout. Go Perri. And I do have to say, I did laugh a few times out loud. I'm not sure. I don't really remember why, but there were a few funny moments. And the best review of all time is this one. 8 out of 10. This is my cat's opinion. I was honestly about to turn this one off when I looked over and my cat was super into it. And who am I to argue with his expertise? And that's from Trashy Cat from 2020. And I don't remember the other one who that's from. But yeah, one thing I can say is that there are a lot of like YouTube videos for your cats now that kind of entertain them when you go do something. This will definitely entertain them. So if you can find it and you want to show your cat something, this is a perfect cat content. You could just keep it on silent. You don't need to listen to the weird narrator. Okay, that is my review of Perri. I think it's film 36. My mood is delightfully entertained. So please check out my other episodes where I'm going through and I'm reviewing every Disney movie in a chronological order. I mean, I'm not releasing these videos necessarily chronologically, but the podcast is being released chronologically. So please check that out. Bye bye.